There are few games as classic as the Dragon Quest series. Arguably the first RPG of its particular persuasion, Dragon Quest made big waves in the East in its home territory of Japan. But the series never really made a big splash in the United States, where it was known as Dragon Warrior for a long time. And there are a lot of reasons for that, from the need to spend hours grinding for experience points and cash to the overall difficulty of the game. While a small handful of games in the series didn't see Western releases for some time, Dragon Quest spin-offs have been complementing the series internationally for years, with titles like Dragon Warrior Monsters and Rocket Slime. Most of these games have been for handheld systems and not for the home consoles. In 2008 though, that changed with the release of Dragon Quest Swords, the Masked Queen and the Tower of Mirrors for the Nintendo Wii. Dragon Quest Swords is a colorful adventure game that has that Akira Toriyama shine fans of the series will instantly recognize. Dragon Quest Swords ditches the traditional control of the other games in the series and tries to shake a stick at motion controls by using a single Nintendo Wii Remote. Which is nice, there's no nunchuck or other accessory needed to enjoy this game, but we'll get into the finer points of the controls soon. Dragon Quest Swords takes place in the country of Avalonia, and at the beginning of the game, Avalonia is celebrating the 5-year anniversary of the defeat of Xiphos, the Deathbringer, who had tormented the lands until being stopped by a group of heroes. Our character has just turned 16, a recurring theme in the Dragon Quest games, and must take the Walk of the Worthy in order to become a real man or something.
It is a long-standing tradition of the Kingdom of Avalonia. A trial to establish your merit, if you will.
After proving his worth, the hero is thrown into a quest to stop the revival of Xiphos and save the Queen of Avalonia, who is taken to wearing an odd mask of late. It's a very simple story, even by Dragon Quest standards, but for this type of game, it works pretty well, since the main crux of the game is in the different style of gameplay. However, the story, characters, and setting still feel perfectly in tune with the Dragon Quest style that fans of the series have come to love and appreciate over the years. DQS has the player utilize the Wii Remote as if it was a sword being swung and used by the hero. Swinging the remote will cause the sword to swing during battles in the game, with the direction of the sword mimicking the way the remote is swung using the Wii Remote's internal motion controls. The basic concept works, though players do have to keep the remote fairly level in order to get the exact swing they intend. Now, since the swings of the Wii Remote only cover a few different planes, you need to set a focal point by pointing at the screen and tapping the A button. This makes your swings land in the general area of your choosing. Without a focal point, the swings will just land in the middle of the screen. Now, this battle system is actually a lot of fun, believe it or not, and I'm not the biggest fan of motion controls at all. But Dragon Quest Swords makes the gameplay feel very arcade-like, while still making me feel like I'm playing and experiencing a Dragon Quest game. Swatting at classic monsters from the series like slimes and drakes is a lot of fun, though it is oddly cruel to see them sliced in half after defeating them. You also have to protect yourself, and you can do that by holding up your shield. Pointing the remote at the screen and holding B will bring up the hero's shield. Mixing up using the shield with repelling arrows and magic attacks back at the enemy with the sword is essential to surviving a lot of battles in the game, and it's the only way to repel a monster and gain an opening in some cases. Some battles will rely heavily on you mastering using the shield, and it can be pretty tricky when bosses pummel you with a lot of attacks, since your shield can break. But surviving a huge rush of attacks and countering with a wave of attacks your own is a nice thrill for the player. You're able to take a single ally into battle with you, and they serve as the magic caster for the party, acting on their own based on set tactics, or you can direct their commands at any time. The typical Dragon Quest spells are here, plus spells that increase the size and coverage of your shield. While you can go at it alone for most levels, it's easier to take a friend along to provide healing and support, since you are limited to how many items you can carry with you at a time. You never really change how you hold the remote during Dragon Quest Swords, so walking around the town of Avalonia can feel a little off at first, since the whole game is played in the first-person perspective. The hero is joined by the Prince of Avalonia, Anlance,
but we must approach with quick, hide yourself!
The sister of a cursed hero who fought Xiphos, Florette.
I have not yet told you. I went to the castle, but Her Majesty would not see me.
And his father, Claymore.
You've a keen eye for the ladies, eh, lad? Just like your dad. Oh, heck! No need to tell your mama said that when she gets back, eh? She'll only be ticked off. It's nowt but men's talk.
Together they make a rather eclectic cast of comrades, and while the plot is rather simple, they add that certain Dragon Quest charm to the story that's kind of hard to describe. The characters' actions and involvement in the plot might be rather cliche, and the characters themselves are not nearly as interesting as those found in Dragon Quest VIII, but they're still a lot of fun. Sometimes their humor is a bit groan-worthy, though.
I haven't the foggiest. Only the royal family is privy to such information.
What? But I know nothing about it. Am I adopted? Or worse, illegitimate?
Oh, and they're all named after different types of sharp objects, in case you hadn't figured that out. Dungeon exploration is where the game might feel a little off for fans of the series. Instead of having full movement like you do in town, you are limited to moving forward and being able to slightly look around to find objects to examine for loot and items. Given the game's more arcade-like feel during battles, exploring the dungeon simply becomes a method to move you from one battle to the next, since they always occur in the same place. There are certain branching paths that you can take, but other than finding different treasure, your goal is typically to move straight forward. It's not terrible since the game is pretty nice to look at, but fans of the series proper might be sad to discover they can't get lost in a maze in a dungeon, and that's an element that makes RPGs fun for some people. Dungeons, or rather stages, are selected upon exiting the town, and more become available as the story progresses. Replaying stages is necessary to gain experience points and to find tempering materials to forge new swords. New swords mean higher base attack values, yes, but they also bestow different master strokes the hero can use. These are devastating attacks with different motions being used for input. They're pretty easy to pull off and they're kind of forgiving, but the better you are at pulling them off, the more powerful they are, and the master strokes do get you out of a pickle every so often. Dragon Quest Swords is a fun experience, but it's actually not as original as I had thought. In Japan, a little game was released in 2003, and while I can't actually pronounce the name of it, it was a plug-and-play game that operated in a very similar way to Dragon Quest Swords. Now, Swords provides a much fuller experience, benefiting from being on a home console, but this little offshoot from back in the day is pretty neat too, and provided the groundwork for what would become Dragon Quest Swords. The enemies in this game are freaking adorable though. While Dragon Quest Swords still has some traditional Dragon Quest elements like equipping weapons, armor, grinding, it kinda makes me think of what would happen if House of the Dead and Dragon Quest had a child. Although the battles occur in the exact same place per stage with the same monsters, and there's always a boss at the end of the level, you're also ranked based on your accuracy and such as you beat a stage. It does kind of feel like a mix of on-rails arcade gameplay and an RPG. And you know what? It works. DQS is a lot of fun, and while I'm not crazy for motion controls, Square Enix didn't shoehorn them into a popular series for the sake of the gimmick. They had a solid groundwork built in 2003 to go off of, and they have enough content like mini-games, cool items, and a decent, if not cliched story that will keep the player entertained for 8 to 10 hours. That's not a long time, and the replay value is a little bit on the slim side here, but Dragon Quest Swords does an excellent job of downsizing the Dragon Quest experience to a different way to play. And they do that without sacrificing the charms and style that helped shape the series into what it is today.